I never believed abandoned houses could hold on to people. Not memories. People. Real people. The kind that breathe inside the walls. And watch you from rooms that should be empty. But after what happened on Willow Creek Road, I stopped laughing at horror stories. Because sometimes a house doesn't become abandoned. Sometimes it waits. It started with a strange Facebook message. The account had no profile picture. No friends. No posts. Just one sentence. You should ask your father about the house on Willow Creek Road. I stared at the screen. My father had died 8 years earlier. Heart attack. At least, that's what my mother always said. I ignored the message. But later that night another notification appeared. He lied to you about what happened there. My stomach tightened. I typed back. Who is this? The typing bubble appeared instantly. Then disappeared. A second later, a photo arrived. An old farmhouse surrounded by dead trees. Broken windows. Collapsed porch. Dark stains running down the front steps. At the bottom of the picture was a date. October 14, 1998. The exact night my father quit working as a sheriff's deputy. Suddenly, I remembered something from childhood. Some nights my father used to wake up screaming. Not talking. Screaming. Pure terror. And afterward my mother would lock their bedroom door. One night I heard him whisper through the wall. The house should have burned. The next morning, he acted like nothing happened. 3 days after receiving the messages, I drove to Willow Creek Road. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. Willow Creek Road sat far outside town. No streetlights. No nearby homes. Just endless forest and broken fences. Rain hit my windshield the entire drive. The GPS lost signal twice. By the time I found the property, it was almost dark. The farmhouse looked exactly like the picture. Maybe worse. The roof sagged inward. Most of the windows were boarded shut. Tall weeds covered the yard. But the strangest thing wasn't the house. It was the silence. No birds. No insects. Nothing. Even the rain sounded quieter near the property. I parked beside an old rusted mailbox. One faded word remained on it. Harper. At the time, the name meant nothing to me. I grabbed my flashlight and walked toward the porch. Every wooden board creaked beneath my feet. The front door was slightly open. Not broken. Open. Like someone had recently gone inside. I called out. Hello. No answer. Only darkness. The smell hit me first. Mold. Rotting wood. And something metallic underneath it. Like old blood. My flashlight moved across peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. Everything was covered in dust. Everything. Except the floor. There were muddy footprints leading down the hallway. Fresh footprints. I should have left right then. Instead, I followed them. The hallway led into a dining room. Old family photographs covered one wall. Most were damaged by water. But a few were still visible. A man. A woman. 2 little girls. The Harper family. But something felt wrong. Every photograph had the father's face scratched out. Deep knife marks carved straight through him. I stepped closer to one picture. The younger girl looked terrified. Not posing. Actually terrified. Her eyes stared towards something outside the frame. Something standing beside the person taking the photo. Suddenly my flashlight flickered. For 1 second the room went completely dark. And I heard breathing behind me. Slow. Wet breathing. I spun around. Nothing was there. But the dining room door had moved. It was now fully open. I knew it hadn't been before. Then I heard a voice upstairs. Very faint. A child whispering. "Daddy." I froze. Another whisper followed. Closer this time. "He's still here." The flashlight shook in my hand. Then something moved upstairs. Heavy footsteps. Slowly crossing the floor above me. One step at a time. The ceiling creaked with every movement. I backed toward the hallway. And noticed something horrifying. The muddy footprints were wet now. Fresh drops of water still clung to them. As if someone had walked through the house seconds earlier. I decided to leave. I turned toward the front door. But halfway down the hallway, I noticed another door beneath the staircase. A basement door. Slightly open. And from inside the darkness below, I heard crying. Soft crying. Like a woman trying not to be heard. Every instinct told me to run. But instead, I walked closer. "Hello." The crying stopped instantly. Silence. Then, 3 knocks echoed from below. Knock. 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 Not random sounds. Intentional knocks. Like something answering me. I stepped backward. The basement door slowly creaked open wider. The smell that came out was unbearable. Rot. Moisture. And something far worse underneath. Something sweet and sickening. I aimed my flashlight toward the stairs. Dirt steps disappeared underground. Deep scratch marks covered the walls. Long marks. Too deep to be human. Then my flashlight landed on the basement floor. Chains. Heavy chains bolted into the concrete. My chest tightened. And suddenly, a voice whispered beside my ear. "Don't go down there." I spun around. No one was there. But the crying had started again. Louder now. Desperate. Almost begging. I slammed the basement door shut. And stumbled backward. Then the entire house went silent. Completely silent. And upstairs, a door slowly opened. I don't know why I went upstairs. Maybe fear makes people stupid. Part of me thought someone needed help. Another part already knew something was wrong with that house. The stairs groaned beneath my weight. Halfway up, I noticed dark stains on the wall. Old brown streaks. Too dark to be water. The second floor hallway stretched into darkness. Several doors lined both sides. At the very end, one room glowed faintly yellow. Not electric light. Candlelight. I could see it flickering beneath the door. Someone was inside the house. I moved slowly toward the room. The floorboards creaked loudly beneath me. Then suddenly, the crying downstairs stopped. Completely. As if whatever was down there was listening. I reached the bedroom door and pushed it open. The room was empty. No candles. No people. Only a rocking chair moving slowly in the corner. Creak. 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 The window beside it was closed. No wind. Still. The chair kept moving. Then I noticed an old tape recorder on the floor. Dust covered it. But it was running. A voice played through the static. Interview recording. October 14th. 1998. I stopped breathing. That was the date from the photograph. Then another voice answered. My father's voice. Older. Nervous. State your name for the record. A weak voice responded. Elias Harper. The room suddenly felt freezing cold. The tape crackled loudly. Then Elias Harper whispered something that still haunts me. It lives under the house. The recording suddenly stopped. At the exact same moment, something slammed against the basement door downstairs. Hard enough to shake the entire house. Boom. Another slam echoed from below. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then came screaming. Not human screaming. Something deeper. Animal-like. Raging. I backed away from the bedroom doorway. The rocking chair suddenly stopped moving. Completely still. And then, I noticed someone standing in the hallway. A little girl. Maybe 8 years old. Long dark hair covered part of her face. She wore an old white nightgown stained near the bottom. She stood perfectly still. Watching me. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Slowly. She raised one finger. And pointed behind me. I turned instantly. Nothing there. But when I looked back toward the hallway, the girl was gone. A loud crash exploded downstairs. Glass shattered. Then came footsteps. Heavy footsteps. Running through the first floor. Not one person. Several. Doors slammed open below me. Furniture scraped across the floor. And beneath all that noise, I heard chains rattling. The house no longer felt abandoned. It felt occupied. And whatever was inside knew exactly where I was. The footsteps downstairs suddenly stopped. Complete silence filled the house again. Then, I heard one slow step on the staircase. Creak. Another step. Creak. Something was coming upstairs. I backed into the bedroom and grabbed the old tape recorder without thinking. The staircase groaned louder. Slow. Heavy. Like whoever was climbing the stairs wanted me to hear every step. Then it stopped outside the room. I stared at the doorway. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. For a few seconds, everything was silent. Then a voice whispered from the hallway. Open the door. It sounded wrong. Almost human. But not completely. I didn't answer. The voice came again. This time using my name. Daniel. My blood turned cold. I had never said my name inside that house. Then came scratching. Long nails dragging slowly across the bedroom door. Screech. Screech. The wood bent inward slightly with each scrape. I backed toward the window, breathing hard. Then suddenly, the scratching stopped. And a little girl's voice whispered beside me. Don't let it see you. I turned fast. The girl from the hallway stood in the corner of the room. Completely still. She slowly pointed toward the closet. Hide. The space smelled like mold and rotting fabric. Through the small crack in the door, I could see the bedroom. A few seconds later, something entered the room. I only saw parts of it. Bare feet. Long fingers. And soaking wet skin. It moved strangely. Jerking unnaturally with every step. Its breathing sounded wet and uneven. The thing slowly walked around the bedroom. Then it stopped directly outside the closet. Silence. I covered my mouth to stop myself from breathing. Then, it spoke. In my father's voice. He should have burned the house. Tears filled my eyes instantly. The thing knew about my father. Maybe it had known him. Maybe it had killed him. The closet door handle slowly began to turn. And suddenly, The little girl screamed somewhere downstairs. A horrible, piercing scream. The creature instantly rushed out of the room. Heavy footsteps thundered down the hallway. I stayed frozen inside the closet for nearly a minute. Then finally, I opened the door. The room was empty. But written across the wall beside the bed were fresh words. "Run before it finds you." Written in something dark and wet. I ran downstairs as fast as I could. The entire house shook around me. Doors slammed violently. Something screamed from the basement. Then I noticed the front door standing wide open. Rain poured outside. I sprinted toward it, but stopped when I saw someone standing in the yard. An old man. Thin. Pale. Wearing dirty overalls. He stared directly at me through the rain. Then he smiled. Slowly. And pointed toward the house. I realized something horrifying. It was the man from the family photographs. Elias Harper. The dead father. I stumbled backward. And suddenly, his mouth opened wider than humanly possible. A deep growling sound came from inside him. Then all the lights in the house exploded at once. Darkness swallowed everything. And from somewhere behind me, I heard chains dragging across the floor. Closer. Closer. Right behind me. Something whispered into my ear. "You were never supposed to come back." Ending. I don't remember getting out of the house. The next thing I knew, I was sitting inside my car miles away from Willow Creek Road. Rain hammered the windshield. The tape recorder sat beside me on the passenger seat. Still running. Static crackled softly through the speaker. Then, my father's voice whispered one final sentence. I locked it in the basement. A long pause followed. Then came the sound of chains breaking. And the recording ended. I went back to Willow Creek Road 2 days later with the police. But the house was gone. Completely gone. No foundation. No burned remains. Nothing. Just an empty field surrounded by dead trees. The officers thought I was insane. Maybe I am. But sometimes late at night, I still receive messages from that empty account. Only one sentence. Over and over again. He followed you home. There's a reason abandoned hospitals are sealed off. Not because they're dangerous. Not because the buildings are unstable. But because some places should never be reopened. Blackthorn Asylum closed in 1987 after a fire killed 13 patients. Officially, that's all that happened. But people in the nearby town tell a different story. They say the patients weren't trying to escape the fire. They were trying to escape something else. Something living beneath the asylum. I didn't believe any of it. Until the night I went inside. It started as a stupid internet challenge. Me and 3 friends drove out to Blackthorn Asylum to film a ghost hunting video for YouTube. Typical fake horror content. Cheap cameras. Flashlights. Laughing at everything. There was me. My best friend Tyler. A girl named Rebecca. And our cameraman, Luis. The asylum sat deep in the woods outside town. Huge. Dark. Rotting. Half the windows were smashed out. The front entrance had been chained shut years ago. But someone had cut through the fence recently. Tyler grinned at the camera. "Alright guys, tonight we're exploring the most haunted building in the state." Rebecca rolled her eyes. "This place smells like dead raccoons." Luis laughed nervously while adjusting the camera. But I noticed something strange immediately. The front doors were open. Not broken. Open. Like someone was expecting us. The inside looked worse than I imagined. Wheelchairs overturned in hallways. Rust-covered hospital beds. Peeling paint hanging from the walls. Every step echoed through the darkness. Our flashlight beams barely cut through the black halls. Luis whispered quietly. "Why does it feel warm in here?" He was right. The deeper we went, the hotter the building became. Which made no sense. The asylum had been abandoned for decades. Then Rebecca stopped walking. "There's someone down there." We aimed our lights toward the end of the hallway. Nothing. Just darkness. But for 1 second. I swear I saw a face disappear around the corner. Tyler laughed nervously. Probably homeless people. Then we heard it. A loud metallic bang somewhere below us. Clang. Everyone froze. Another bang followed. Clang. Like metal hitting concrete underground. Luis lowered the camera slightly. That came from the basement. We found the basement entrance near the old surgery wing. A narrow staircase disappeared into darkness below. Heavy chains hung from the walls beside it. And strange symbols were painted across the doorframe. Rebecca stepped closer. "Those aren't graffiti." The paint looked old. Very old. Like it had been there for years. Then Tyler noticed something scratched into the wall. "Do not go below level 3. Luis laughed awkwardly. "What the hell does that mean?" The asylum only had one basement level. At least officially. Tyler started walking down the stairs. "Come on. This is gonna be great footage." I followed him reluctantly. The air grew hotter with every step downward. Soon sweat covered my skin. And then we reached the basement. The smell hit instantly. Rotting meat. Old chemicals. And something burned underneath it. The basement corridors stretched endlessly in both directions. Most of the doors were sealed shut with rusted chains. But one hallway stood completely open. At the end of it, a stairwell descended even deeper underground. Level 2. Before going downstairs, we entered a small office nearby. Old cassette tapes covered the shelves. Patient files were scattered across the floor. Luis aimed the camera around the room. Then Rebecca found a tape recorder still sitting on a desk. Dust covered it completely. But somehow, it still had power. Tyler pressed play. Static filled the room. Then a man's voice began speaking. Patient interviews. Blackthorn Asylum. October 1987. A woman cried softly in the background. Then another voice whispered. "They're coming from the lower levels." The tape crackled loudly. "They only move in darkness." Rebecca looked uncomfortable now. Tyler forced a laugh. "Okay, that's creepy." But the recording continued. The stairs weren't here before. Silence followed for several seconds. Then screaming erupted through the tape. Horrible screaming. Multiple voices. People begging. Crying. Then suddenly, the tape ended. And from somewhere deep below us, we heard screaming too. Real screaming. Very far underground. Luis slowly lowered the camera. That wasn't on the tape. Nobody wanted to admit it. But we should have left right there. Instead, we went deeper. The second stairwell led us underground again. The walls changed as we descended. The lower level didn't look like a hospital anymore. The concrete walls were older. Darker. Almost burned black. Long claw marks covered parts of the hallway. Some of the doors looked welded shut from the outside. And then we noticed the temperature. It was unbelievably hot now. Like standing near an oven. Rebecca whispered. "Do you hear that?" At first I heard nothing. Then slowly, I noticed whispering. Dozens of whispers. Coming through the walls. Not understandable words. Just whispering. All around us. Luis looked terrified. We need to leave. Then Tyler's flashlight landed on a huge steel door at the end of the corridor. Level 3. The door stood slightly open. And warm orange light flickered from inside. Like firelight. Tyler smiled nervously. This has to be some homeless camp. But I noticed something horrifying near the doorway. Handprints. Hundreds of black handprints covering the walls around the entrance. Like people had tried desperately to crawl back out. And suddenly, something moved inside the darkness beyond the door. Fast. Way too fast to be human. Rebecca grabbed my arm tightly. We're not alone down here. Tyler slowly pushed the steel door open. The hinges screamed loudly. Inside, the hallway looked completely different. The walls were covered in ash. Hospital beds lined both sides of the corridor. Most of them still had restraints attached. Burn marks covered the ceiling. And at the far end, someone stood motionless in the darkness. A tall figure. Too thin to be human. Luis whispered. Tell me that's a mannequin. The figure suddenly moved. Its head snapped toward us unnaturally fast. Then all the lights on our cameras flickered at once. Rebecca screamed. The thing rushed into the darkness and disappeared. Fast footsteps echoed deeper underground. Tyler finally looked afraid. We're leaving. But when we turned back, the stairwell door had slammed shut. Luis and I ran toward the door. It wouldn't open. Something held it from the other side. Then came whispering again. Closer now. Much closer. Rebecca pointed down the hallway. Shapes were standing beside the hospital beds. Dozens of them. Human shapes. Perfectly still. Watching us. One by one. Their heads slowly tilted sideways. Then they started walking toward us. Not normal walking. Jerking movements. Like broken puppets. Luis panicked and ran deeper into the corridor. Move. We followed him. The whispering became louder. Soon it sounded like hundreds of voices speaking at once. Then the emergency lights suddenly turned on overhead. Dim red light flooded the hallway. And that's when we saw the walls clearly. Names. Thousands of names scratched into the concrete. Every wall. Every door. Every inch. Tyler touched one of the carvings. Then froze. These are dates. Every date ended the same way. October 1987. At the end of the corridor we found another staircase. Except this one wasn't on any map. The stairs descended endlessly into darkness. Hot air rose from below. And something huge moved. Somewhere underneath us. A deep growling sound echoed upward. Rebecca started crying. We need to get out now. Then Luis pointed his camera downward. For 1 second. The camera light revealed something standing far below. Tall. Massively tall. Its skin looked blackened and burned. And its arms were impossibly long. The creature slowly lifted its head toward us. Then every whisper in the asylum stopped instantly. Complete silence. And the thing smiled. A huge unnatural smile stretching across its face. Luis dropped the camera. The creature started climbing the stairs toward us. Fast. Way too fast. We ran. The entire asylum shook around us. Metal doors slammed shut behind us. The whispers became screaming. Real screaming. Like hundreds of patients trapped underground. Tyler grabbed an old oxygen tank from the hallway. Then he looked at me. Run. Before I could answer, he smashed the tank against the wall. Sparks exploded. Fire erupted instantly across the corridor. The flames swallowed the hallway between us and the creature. For 1 second, I saw it clearly inside the fire. Burned skin, long black teeth, and dozens of human arms moving beneath its body. Then Tyler screamed. The creature grabbed him through the flames and dragged him backward into the darkness. His screaming echoed through the asylum, then suddenly stopped. The rest of us escaped through a broken emergency exit. Rebecca never spoke again after that night. Luis uploaded the footage online, but the video disappeared 2 days later. His channel was deleted completely. A month afterward, Luis killed himself. Police found strange symbols scratched into his apartment walls. The same symbols from the basement staircase. As for me, I still dream about Blackthorn Asylum. Because sometimes late at night, I hear footsteps beneath my apartment floor. Slow footsteps. Climbing stairs. Coming closer every night. And last week, I woke up to find black. Every town has a place people avoid talking about. In my hometown, that place was Greywood Forest. Kids were warned never to enter after dark. Not because of animals. Not because people got lost. But because of the tunnel. A tunnel hidden deep beneath the woods. Most people believed it was just an urban legend. Until hikers started disappearing. Then the police found the recordings. Hours of audio recovered from broken phones. Screaming. Crying. And one sentence repeated over and over. It mimics your voice. I heard those recordings 3 years ago. And I still can't sleep without the lights on. It started after my younger brother Ethan disappeared. He went hiking with 2 friends near Greywood Forest. Only one of them came back. A 16-year-old kid named Mason. When police found him wandering beside the highway, he was covered in blood. Not his own. He kept repeating the same thing again and again. It wasn't Ethan anymore. Nobody understood what he meant. 2 days later, I joined a volunteer search team heading into the forest. There were 6 of us. Police officers, local hunters, and me. Rain had soaked the woods all morning. Everything smelled wet and rotten. The deeper we walked into Greywood, the quieter the forest became. No birds. No insects. Nothing. Then one of the officers stopped suddenly. Look at this. Fresh footprints covered the mud ahead. Bare human footprints. Dozens of them. All leading deeper into the forest. Toward the mountain. We found the tunnel entrance near sunset. Hidden behind thick trees and rocks. The opening looked old. Very old. Like part of an abandoned mine. Cold air drifted out from the darkness inside. But the strange thing was the smell. The tunnel smelled like wet soil. And something rotting underneath. One officer aimed his flashlight inside. The tunnel stretched far underground. Too deep to see the end. Then we noticed the markings. Scratches covered the walls. Around the entrance. Thousands of them. Like people had clawed at the stone trying to escape. A hunter beside me whispered. We shouldn't go in there. Then suddenly, a voice echoed from deep inside the tunnel. Very faint. Help me. My heart nearly stopped. It was Ethan's voice. I ran toward the entrance instantly. The others followed behind me. And that was our first mistake. The tunnel walls were covered in moisture. Water dripped constantly from the ceiling. Every footstep echoed endlessly underground. The deeper we went, the colder the air became. Then we found Ethan's backpack lying beside the wall, covered in dirt. One strap torn completely off. Inside the bag was his phone. The screen was cracked badly, but somehow it still worked. One officer played the final audio recording. At first there was only breathing. Heavy breathing. Then Ethan whispered, "I think something followed us down here." Static crackled loudly. Then another voice answered him. But it was also Ethan's voice. Exactly Ethan's voice. "We're right behind you." The recording ended with screaming. Not one person screaming. Several. Then silence. Nobody spoke after hearing that. And suddenly, we heard footsteps deeper in the tunnel. Bare footsteps. Slowly walking toward us. The flashlight beams shook as we aimed them ahead. At first, we saw nothing. Then one of the officers whispered, "There." A figure stood far down the tunnel. Too far away to see clearly. But it looked human. Thin. Tall. Motionless. Then it spoke. "Daniel." My blood froze instantly. It was Ethan's voice again. Perfectly copied. The figure slowly stepped forward into the flashlight beam. And I nearly threw up. Its body looked wrong. Its arms were too long. Its skin pale and stretched tightly across its bones. But the worst part was its face. It looked unfinished. Like it was trying to copy a human face but couldn't get it right. Its mouth stretched into a horrible smile. Then it copied my voice perfectly. "Run." The creature suddenly charged toward us. Fast. Unbelievably fast. Everyone started screaming. And the tunnel lights went completely black. Chaos exploded around us. People crashed into walls trying to escape. Flashlights hit the ground. Someone fired a gun. The gunshot echoed painfully through the tunnel. Then came screaming somewhere behind us. One of the hunters. His screen cut off instantly. The emergency flashlight in my hand flickered back on. Only 3 of us remained together now. Me. Officer Grant. And a local hunter named Cole. The others were gone. Then we heard it again. Voices. All around us. Perfect copies of our own voices. Crying. Begging for help. Calling our names from different directions. Cole looked terrified. "It's trying to separate us." Then something moved across the tunnel ceiling above us. Fast. Spider-like. And suddenly, Officer Grant disappeared into the darkness behind us. Dragged away screaming. Blood splashed across the wall. Then silence returned again. Complete silence. And somewhere ahead in the darkness, dozens of voices whispered together. "Come deeper." Me and Cole kept moving deeper through the tunnel. We didn't have a choice. Every path behind us echoed with those things mimicking our voices. The tunnel slowly widened into a massive underground chamber. And the smell became unbearable. Rotting flesh. Blood. Wet earth. My flashlight beam shook as it moved across the room. Then I saw them. Clothes. Dozens of piles of human clothes scattered across the ground. Shoes. Backpacks. Phones. Some looked years old. Others looked recent. Then Cole pointed upward silently. Bodies hung from the ceiling. Wrapped in thick black material like cocoons. Some were moving slightly. Still alive. I nearly collapsed when I recognized Ethan's jacket hanging above us. Then suddenly, a voice whispered beside me. "Daniel." I turned instantly. Ethan stood in the darkness. Or at least, something wearing Ethan's face. His skin looked pale and stretched. His smile too wide. His movements jerky and unnatural. Tears filled my eyes. Ethan. The thing tilted its head slowly. Then in Ethan's exact voice it whispered. It learned us. Suddenly another voice screamed from above us. Don't listen to it. A cocoon near the ceiling started moving violently. Inside, someone was alive. Cole climbed the rocks quickly and cut the material open with his hunting knife. A body fell hard onto the ground. It was Ethan. The real Ethan. Weak. Covered in blood. Barely breathing. The creature wearing Ethan's face suddenly shrieked. A horrible animal-like scream echoed through the chamber. Then more movement appeared in the darkness around us. Dozens of pale figures crawling across the walls and ceiling. All smiling. All wearing half-formed human faces. Cole grabbed Ethan while I backed away slowly. Then every creature spoke at once. Using our voices. Stay with us. The lights died again. And the creatures rushed toward us. We ran blindly through the tunnels. The creatures chased us from every direction. Crawling on walls. Ceilings. Through narrow cracks in the stone. Everywhere. Ethan could barely stand. Cole practically dragged him forward. Then suddenly, we saw daylight ahead. The tunnel entrance. We sprinted toward it. But one of the creatures dropped from the ceiling directly onto Cole. Its jaw opened unnaturally wide before biting into his throat. Blood sprayed across the tunnel wall. Cole shoved us forward while screaming. Run! I grabbed Ethan and pulled him toward the exit. Behind us, I heard dozens of creatures tearing Cole apart. His screams echoed through the tunnel. Then suddenly stopped. We burst out of the tunnel into the forest rain. And behind us, all the noises instantly stopped. The tunnel became completely silent again. Like nothing had ever been there. Police searched Greywood Forest for 2 weeks afterward. They never found the tunnel again. Not even the entrance. It was gone. Like the mountain had swallowed it. Ethan survived. But he never fully recovered. Sometimes he wakes up screaming in the middle of the night. Claiming he can still hear them underground. Mimicking his voice. And last month, something terrifying happened. I received a voicemail from an unknown number. Static filled the recording for several seconds. Then I heard Cole's voice whisper clearly. Daniel, it followed us out. The message ended with sounds of wet crawling. And breathing. Right beside the phone.